Okay, I have 7 o'clock and we have a lot to cover. So I think we'll get started and I think more people will join, Lord willing. So welcome to Christian Homeschoolers of Hawaii High School and Beyond Session 2. I'm June Mather. I serve on the CHO board and we're happy to have you join us. And so let's start with prayer. Our Heavenly Father, we are so thankful, Father, that you are God over all. Our homeschool, our children, our lives, because, Lord, we can do nothing without your hand upon us. And we thank you that all this is possible because of your mercy and grace to us in Jesus Christ. Father, I thank you for the families who are here, for their desire to learn, for their desire to continue teaching their teens through the high school years, these very important years, Father, to continue to build on the foundation laid in the earlier years. So we ask, Father, for your blessings upon the presentation tonight, that there's a lot of information to be shared. I pray that it would be clear and questions can be answered. And even though it's a lot of information, let us not lose sight, Father, that we are desiring to raise a generation that loves you and seeks to obey you in Jesus Christ, and that we do all things, Father, for your glory. For I pray this in Jesus' name, amen. Okay, so everyone is muted for now until the Q&A time. If you have any questions, feel free to just jot them down, or you can put them in the chat box and we'll answer them later. We'll be covering a lot of different sections of information, and what I hope to do is every now and then to have some include a Q&A time, so it's not, the Q&A time won't be at the end of at the end of the entire presentation. Okay, so tonight we'll be covering record keeping for high school, grading and grade point averages, and transcripts. And I think I mentioned last week that we have a bonus session next week, June 24th, from 7 to 8:30 again. We have a representative from HACAC, the Hawaii Association for College Admission Counseling, and they will share with you 3 topics: college admission, what a college is looking for in a student, and additional documentation that might be needed by homeschoolers; college fit, finding the right college for your student, the right academic, social, and financial fit; and then intro to financial aid, understanding the basics to make informed financial decisions about college and scholarship opportunities. And finally, after tonight's session, Lord willing, tomorrow or no later than Saturday, I will be emailing all of you an evaluation form. And if you reply to and send in your evaluation of our session, we will put your name into a drawing for a $50 gift certificate from Rainbow Resources, a homeschool curriculum distributor. So let's start with record keeping for high school. At our session last week, we talked about the chapter 12 of compulsory attendance exceptions and its relation to homeschooling. And we talked about the requirements for high school. So you know, for example, that you need to send in a notice of intent. And we recommend the 4140 just because it's the DOE bona fide form, even though your written notice intent is sufficient and they should staple the parent copy to it. The DOE form is very easily recognizable, and that you still have to send in progress reports every year. I just would like to reiterate section 8.12.15, record of curriculum, The curriculum shall be structured and based on educational objectives as well as the needs of the child, be cumulative and sequential, provide a range of up-to-date knowledge and needed skills, and take into account the interests, needs, and abilities of the child. Very clearly, you can personalize and individualize your students' high school education. Also, the record should include commencement date and ending date, record of number of hours per week child spends in instruction, and we'll talk about how that can be done later. Subject areas to be covered for secondary school may include social studies, English, mathematics, science, health, physical education, and guidance. A method to determine mastery of materials and subjects, and we'll cover that in a little bit of how you can do that. And a list of textbooks or other instruction materials used, which all of this should be in bibliographic format, and we'll touch on that as well. So your academic records, what kind of things should you keep? Okay, so academic records should include the course information for high school, and we'll be going into much detail about that soon. Report cards, if you issue them, and at least a record of their grade point average. Transcripts, and we're definitely going to cover that. Test scores, that would include your standardized achievement test scores, your college admission test scores, whether it's the SAT or the ACT, the college scholarship exam, which is the PSAT. If you're taking any other college type of test like the CLEP or AP courses, you want records of that. And of course, any of your progress reports you should keep as well. Non-academic records, those would include your Chapter 12 rule. I always encourage families to either have a hard copy or to keep a copy of it very accessible for you in case anything arise from the schools. Keep on file your letter of intent and the DOE acknowledgement. A list of all the extracurricular activities that your child might be involved in, and we're going to talk more specifically about that later. Employment experience, any internships, apprenticeships, employment, all those kinds of things we will talk a little bit about more later. So basically that's it for record keeping. Any questions here? Okay, if you do, you can just put it in the chat box. So now we're going to be talking about grades and the course syllabus. Now, many of us have not assigned grades for high school or for our children's homeschool. But now that they're entering high school, it seems to take a front seat in our record keeping. Grades document your students' high school level work. They serve as an evaluation of your students' work, as well as could even be a source of motivation for your student to keep learning and improving and growing. Grades communicate to college admission counselors, future employers, military recruiters, and others, your students' performance level and even potential for college or work or whatever. So grading is based on some traditional standards. A is for excellent performance. B, we think of good performance. C, satisfactory performance. And D, unsatisfactory or below less than satisfactory performance. And F would be for failure. Now, the words excellent, good, satisfactory probably provide a clue to you that grading can be quite subjective, even for the homeschooler. But don't think you're alone. Teachers everywhere, whether it's public school, private school, have to deal with subjectivity in grading. So the big question is, well, how do we make it as objective as possible? And that's what we're going to talk about here. We're going to help you walk through it and maybe even and hopefully give you some helpful resources. Now, if you ever took a college course, you will recall that on the first day of your class, your instructor gave you a syllabus for the course. And some of that information on the syllabus included the name of the class, the number of credits, a description of the course, the materials or textbooks that were required, and the dates for assignments, exams, projects, papers, etc. Your instructor may have also included his office hours and contact information. But most important were the requirements for the course, what you had to do. And sometimes the instructor might have even described what was required to get a certain grade for the class. So I'm going to use a modified version of a course syllabus. This is what I used for my children when they're in high school. I omitted the contact information and the office hours because the kids knew where to find me and mom is available 24/7. So much of this information came from Mary Schofield's high school handbook, this book here. It's available on Amazon. Mary Schofield actually came to Hawaii years and years and years ago and spoke about high school, preparing for high school. And she's just was just a big resource and help for me. But you can find her book on Amazon, and there's a lot of material online for you to look at as well. So the form I'm going to show you is the one that I sent you. You don't need to use this form, but having this kind of information is probably very helpful. So let's look at this handout, the course syllabus. So as you can see, it has the student's name, the year and the grade. It begins with the course title. This would be the name of your course. You know, is it English, social history, biology, etc. The course credit would be 1 or half a credit, depending on the number of hours. Typically, it's a 1-year course, 30 to 60 weeks of instruction, 5 days a week, 50 to 60 minutes a day. So that calculates to about 100 to 180 hours for 1 credit, 75 to 90 hours for half a credit. And you want to make sure that your student is doing high school work, and you don't want to shortchange them. And you want to make sure that you give a credit that is rightfully earned. Okay, so if you're using a traditional curriculum, normally the high school credit is, well, normally a traditional curriculum is written to take 1 school year. Dan, I don't have the form up anymore. Yeah, always wanted for a long time. Normally the course is written for 1 year to complete. So if you complete the whole book, or at least 75, 80, 85% of it, you can assign 1 course, 1 credit for the course. If you use a unit study or integrated curriculum, consider logging the hours the student spends in the work. So again, it would be the same hours, 50 to 60 minutes a day, 5 days a week, 30 to 36 weeks. And again, you'll get 150 to 80 hours for 1 credit, 75 to 90 hours for half a credit. You can go on the low end if it's a non-academic course. For 1 credit would be 120, 60 hours for a half a credit. Or if you're doing a unit study or integrated curriculum, you could grant a credit based on the number of weeks. For example, if your unit study is 12 weeks long, when you're studying maybe anatomy or something like that, and or I should probably, let's say something in history, and it includes English composition and literature, history and art, you could give like 1/3 credit for each of these 3 courses if the hours were pretty much evenly divided. So there's different ways to look at this. Just look at the hours as a guideline and don't be too controlled by it or obsessed by it. The next box is course curriculum. These are the textbooks and instructional materials that you use, and they should be in bibliographic format. So that covers what the Chapter 12 rule says about keeping a record of the curriculum that you use. Next is course description. This is a description of what the course will cover. If you're using textbooks, you can look into the scope and sequence or of the publisher, or even use the table of context from the textbook that you're using. You can go to the publisher's website or catalog for a description of the curriculum. Same thing if you're using a unit study, although you'll probably have to summarize the concepts that will be covered on your own, you can still go to the publisher website or again, the catalog to get a description of the course. Okay, next comes course standard. And to me, this is the most important part because this outlines or lists the assignments, projects, tests, essays, etc. that your student will need to do to receive a credit for the course. The standard also describes what constitutes a particular letter grade. What makes up an A? What makes up a B? Will the grades be based on just the quizzes or the tests? Will the grade be based on oral presentations, written assignments, daily assignments, things like that? Are the grades going to be weighted? And what that means is, are you going to assign a different value for each, for different assignments, or is everything going to be valued the same? And we'll talk more about that and explain that later, and you'll actually see what I mean. And the final thing that the standard include would be your grading scale. And a commonly used grading scale is the one you see here, where A is 90 to 100%, B is 80 to 89, C is 70 to 79, etc. Another option is a little higher, where A is 93 to 100, B is 85 to 92, C is 77 to 84. So it's a 7-point difference. It's up to you which one you want to use. The first one, the one that's pictured, is more common. And whatever you use, you really should use the same grading scale for every subject, so that when on your transcripts, when you see a grade, we know that this grade came because of the same type of grading scale. Okay. Any questions so far? I'm going to be talking a little bit about calculating grades for different subjects. Okay, so calculating the grades are a little bit easier for math and another subject like science, because these subjects tend to provide more objective scores. And we're still looking at course syllabus, but we'll be looking at a math example in a few minutes. Something like subjects like English composition, maybe history, literature, those are a little bit more, not tricky, but they require a little bit more thought on how you're going to do your standards. So for example, in English composition, you can use an English program that teaches composition skills and also includes a way to assess your students' writing. For example, I think IEW, Institutes for Excellence in Writing, I think they have a checklist or rubrics in there. If you're familiar with Write Shop, I believe they have an assessment also. There is an online program, or you can get everything online, PDFs, called Seven Sisters homeschool.com. And they also have a writing program and a writing assessment. I used something that was kind of popular in my day, probably not too popular now. It's called Jensen's Format Writing. Taught different ways to taught different paragraph writing and essay writing, and it had a scoring in there so that I could assign an actual grade for each writing assignment that my student did. So you could also look for writing rubric. If you were to Google writing rubric high school, there's lots of examples that you can find. You can choose one that's most, that would work for you. For other subjects, check the curriculum itself to see if they have a means of evaluation, or you could try even Googling rubrics for a particular subject. Another thing to think about in your standards is you might want to consider a small percentage of the grade to determine by your child's completion of assignments, like he did reading or he took notes, his participation, especially in a co-op. But you don't want to over reward your child for doing what he is supposed to do anyway. But it can be an incentive, and it might make the difference whether he gets the B+ or the A- or something like that. And on the other hand, you could use grading or points to be deductive if assignment is late or incomplete or even messy, had spaghetti stains on it or something like that. Whatever standards you come up with, it's really important that you discuss them with your student so they know ahead what to expect, okay? So now let's look at the math example. I'll wait till my computer tech person puts that up. So this math example, I just took parts of the course syllabus. The course is Algebra 1. What I wanted you mainly to see was the standard. So my student needed to complete the daily assignments, do the summary and review at the end of the chapter test, midterm exam, final exam. And I decided that I was going to weight the daily assignments for 20% of his grade and the tests for 80% of the grade. And I used a standard grading scale. Then if you look at the daily assignments, this is just hypothetical. So I just put down 3 daily assignment scores. As you can see, 88 over 90, 92 over 100, 90 over 95. These are the points earned over the points possible. I divided and got a decimal for each one. So you see it's 0.98, 0.92, and 0.95. I multiplied by 100 to get a percentage. And you can actually omit this step if you prefer to work with decimals. Then I took the average for the daily assignments by adding the percentages or the decimals, and then divided by the number of assignments, and I got 95%. So hold that in the back of your mind. I did this similar thing for test scores. I had 3 tests, 89 over 100, 90 over 95, 87 over 90. Again, divided points earned by points possible. Got the decimal, which I could use as is, or I could use a percentage. I added those all up to get, and divided by 3 the number of tests, and to get a average, and that was 94%. Now, because I said I weighted the daily assignments and tests, I multiplied the average of the daily assignment scores by the weight of 20%, and the average of the test scores by 80%. And I got 19% for daily assignments and 75% for test scores. I added those two weighted scores together and got 94%. I compared it to my grading scale, and it falls in the letter A grade. So my son got an A for his Algebra 1 course at the end of the year. Okay, are there any questions on this? It's like a lot of calculating, but I gave this to you as a handout so you can really see how it's done. So I hope it makes sense. Any questions? Okay. Okay, so I would say that if you can do these standards, more than half the battle is won. Because after that, it's just pretty much all numbers. So, but we can next then talk about, you've established your standards, you figured out the grades for the courses, and now it's at the end of the year, just 1 year, not the high school year yet, but maybe your first high school year. We're gonna figure out the GPA. So hang in there, we're getting close to the end. So you've taught your kids how to add, subtract, multiply, and divide. So you're more than capable to compute GPA for your high schooler. And if you prefer, you can just use the calculator on your phone, or you can use the resource that we've listed below for you. So the grade point average, or GPA, is a numeral calculated by assigning a numerical value to letter grades, and this is included in your high schooler's transcripts. So as you see on the form, which is kind of blurry, Dan, the yearly GPA, to calculate the GPA for a year or grade, you're going to convert each letter grade for a course to points. So A is 4 points, B is 3 points, C is 2 points, D is 1 point, and F is 0 points. So if you see the grade 9 chart below, the student took English, algebra, biology, geography, Latin, logic, fine arts, piano, and theology. You can see the grades. You can see the points that he gets according to that grade and the credits that are earned. So you multiply the course points by the credit for the course to get what they call quality points. So English, he got an A, that's 4 points, 1 credit, so 4 times 1 is 4. Same thing for algebra. Biology, he got a B. A B is only worth 3 points. It's still 1 credit, so 3 times 1 is 3, so he gets 3 points. Let's skip down to and so C is only 2 points, so he gets 2 quality points. Let's skip down to logic. Logic is only a half credit course. He got a grade of B. If it was a full credit course, he would have gotten 3 points. But because it's only a half credit course, he only gets 1.5 points. So we multiply 1.5 by the credit earned, which is 0.5, and he gets 0.75 quality points. So then we total the quality points. It comes out to 22.5. The total number of credits is 7. And we divide the quality points by the number of credits, 22.5 divided by 7, and we get 3.21. That's the GPA. Okay, and you would repeat this process to get the GPA for each grade. If you wanted to do it per semester, you could do it, but there, 1 year at a time is fine. Here's some things to be aware. If your grading includes pluses and minuses, you can add 0.3 to the grade points for a plus and minus 0.3 for minus. So A plus would be 4.3 and A minus would be 3.7. And of course, on your grading scale, you have to know where does an A, what is an A minus, and an A plus? You're gonna have to figure that out first. Okay. For pass, fail courses, which are sometimes offered, and even in high school, the credits are counted, it should be for the number of courses, but not for computing the GPA. So if you had 7 credits, but included 1 pass, fail class, of course, for 0.5 credits, and the total credits for calculating would only be 6.5, okay? If your student takes advanced placement courses, an A is 5 points, a B is 4 points, C is 3 points, and D is 2 points. Now, finally, the cumulative GPA provides a summary of your teen's high school years. It's really not an average of the 4 years of grade point averages, although sometimes it might turn out to be the same numerical value, but it depends upon how many credits were taken each year. So actually, to calculate all the quality points for each grade level, you add all the to calculate the cumulative GPA, you add all the quality points for each grade level, and you divide that by the total of credits minus the pass or fail credits. I did not include a sample up here, but if you can follow how to do the yearly GPA, it's basically the same process. If you need a little bit help, here's this website, GPA calculator. The nice lady talks you through everything and records everything and figures it out all for you so that you don't even need your calculator. You can just plug everything in and you got it. And I believe it also calculates cumulative GPA. So these are some nice handy resources that weren't available in my days, but they're available for you. Any questions? Hey, you guys are doing real good.
Yes, sorry, I do have a question. The classes that are half credit, shouldn't they still be 3 points? And so the student would have earned 1.5 instead of 0.75?
1.5 times 0.5 is 0.75 because
Right, but shouldn't B still be 3 and then you get a half? Because it's a half credit, the student should have received 1.5 points, quality points, instead of 0.75. Because a B should still be 3 instead of 0.5.
The B is still 3, but because you're trying to figure out the quality points, you don't want to make it, the grade point average is based on how many credits they take and what the grade was. So
right. So if that class had been 1 credit, and they got a B, they would have received points, right?
Yes.
But because it's a half credit, they should have received 1.5 instead of 0.75, right?
They would have gotten, I don't know how to explain it. Because you get a credit for the whole year. This is not a whole year.
Right.
So it's only half a credit. So the B is only, it's like, if you look on the report card, you're going to get, you're not going to see that course on both ends of the,
right, of the semesters.
Right.
Right, yeah, I understand that, but
So,
so if it had been 1 credit,
uh-huh,
the student would have gotten 3 quality points, right?
yes.
But because it was only a half credit, shouldn't the student have gotten 1.5 quality points instead of 0.75?
But he only got his, because it was only a half a credit, then the grade was only worth 1.5 points. The B was only worth 1.5 points. Because it was only half a credit. That somehow this is how they calculated. This is how I was told.
Okay, that kind of
I can
doesn't.
I can look that up for
mathematically.
you. Yeah, you can go look it up, or I'll look it up as well, Sylvie. That's a good question.
I think if I can try to help explain, I think because the B is 3 points, so you can't give the whole 3 points on that quality point. So it has to be half 1.5, because half of 3 points would be 1.5. And then the credit earned was 0.5, so it's half the credit earned. So then you would have to, on the quality points, it's going to be 1.5 times the 0.5 credit earned. And that's why it's only 0.75. It can't be a whole credit, like a whole quality point.
Yeah.
No, but the whole would be 3, so the half should be 1.5. So now it seems that you're dividing it twice.
Twice. I'll
Right.
check on that, Sylvie.
3, the half should be 1.5.
I'll check on that, Sylvie.
Okay, thanks.
Good question. Any other questions? Okay, now comes the easy part. Transcripts. We're finally ready to do transcripts. And actually, this is the part a lot of us are worried about, the transcripts, but actually it's really the easiest part if you've done your standards, because if you've done your standards, you have a grade, and all you have to do is cut and paste that grade into your transcript template. So we'll look at, I sent you a couple of different transcript templates. If you were to Google high school transcript templates, you'd come up with a lot. A lot of them will look alike. There might be something a little bit different. The two that you see have some differences in how they're set up and how they look. You want it to look professional. You want it to be typed in. You want it to just look good. You should have a name for your school. Make that really official as well. You can start filling it in and not printing it, but just start filling it in on your computer and saving it so that it doesn't become scramble time at the end of the school year or whenever you have to send it in to, if your child is going to college. If you have a particular college in mind, then you might want to contact the school to see if there are certain things on the transcript that they would like to see. In this sample, you see here, they have an academic summary on the bottom, and there's a place for notes that you can look at. In the second template, the bottom section is even more different in that they have a place for the grading scale that's included in template number 2. So in template number 1, maybe you want to put the grading scale under notes, or maybe you want to modify this template to include the grading scale. It's all up to you. And it might just be best to, particularly if you have a college in mind, to see what kind of information they would like to see. So we're going to focus on template number 2, mainly because it's more this template that has the completed transcript, and that's the one that we're going to actually look at now. So we're going to look at the completed transcript to take you through how to fill in the transcript. So, tech guy? No, the one that has all the information filled in. That one, yep, okay, yep, leave this one up. So the name of this school is Smith Academy. On the left side is student information, the full name of the student, the address, the phone number, email address, date of birth, and who the parents and guardian are. On the other side is the school information. And even though, I mean, this is homeschool, so it's going to be the same address, phone number, email address. And transcript one had a contact information, the contact. So you could add this in so that you know who to actually speak to if you have to call, or the counselor would know who to actually ask for. So below is the academic record. This transcript goes by grade level. There are some that go by subject level. I personally like it by grade level, but it's up to you, and it may be up to the school. Normally, you would put the more academic subjects first, like English, math, science, history, the foreign language, and then the electives. If you are sending the transcript to a prospective college, then you would include the courses for grade 12. I'm assuming you're sending this during the senior year. And you would put IP, in progress, under the grade column. And then inform the college that you will send the transcript, the completed transcript, at the close of the school year. This transcript, if you notice, has some asterisks in it. If you look at grade 12, there's an asterisk for economics and speech. And that asterisk takes you down to notes. These were coursework taken at a local community college. And you let the prospective college know that an official transcript from the college has been requested and will be sent to the college, the college shortly. This transcript has a cumulative GPA. It lists the number of credits earned, if a diploma was earned, and the graduation date. This one included a grading scale, and at the very bottom, it has the parent's signature, which is attesting to that this is truthful, that these courses were taken, and this is how the student performed. The graduation date is the date when all the courses were completed. Even though some were completed earlier or whatever, you would put the final graduation date, and then it should include the month, the day, and the year. And it should be the same one as on the diploma. Now, this might be different from the date of your graduation ceremony or anything like that, but this is the date. The graduation date will stay the same. What will vary every time you send a transcript would be the date that the parent signs the transcript. So let's say you send a transcript to one college, and so mom signs it, puts the date, and then 2 weeks later you're going to send the transcript to another college. Mom signs it and puts it's the current date when she signs it, not when she signed the first transcript. So every time it's a new record of when it's being sent. If they want it sent to you PDF, make sure that you if they want you to send it electronically, make sure that you send it PDF so that it's not altered or there's no question about it being altered in any way. This one has cumulative grade point averages. If you look at 9th and 10th grade, you see at the bottom of 9th grade, you have total credit 7, GPA 3.36. And you notice the cumulative GPA is 3.36 because it's only 1 year. Okay, for grade 10, the total credits was 7. The GPA for grade 10 was 3.4, and the cumulative GPA, which is for grades 9 and 10, is now 3.25. So on this template, you see the cumulative GPA through the years of high school in each section rather than listed separately in like in the other template. So basically it's just filling this in, and if you've been keeping these records, it's basically just cut and pasting it into this transcript template. It's good to have someone proofread everything so there's no spelling errors, there's no calculation errors. When you do your GPA, just have somebody else double check. You can use that calculator resource that we've given you. There are transcript services that you can use if that helps you. We just want to let you know that this is something you can do. This is something that's accepted by colleges. Maybe there's still a college somewhere that has never seen a homeschool student, but homeschooling has been around for almost 30 years or so in the United States. So there have been a lot of people who've come before you. So a lot of colleges are aware of homeschooling. Last week, we talked about the military, on how homeschool students can now enter the military at Tier 1. You need to produce a transcript. Do not take the GED. Your transcript should be just as robust as if your child was going to go to college. Transcripts might be needed if you want to do, even for employment, they want to make sure that you are a high school graduate. So having a nicely put together transcript, it is valuable. It's a 1-page summary, and only 1 page, of your students' academic performance during the 9th and 12th grade years. And it includes what courses you taught, what courses your student took under you, as well as any courses taken outside of the home. And like I said, they're important for college admissions, for military, for apprenticeships, for employment. And like I said, you could use these that I've emailed you. You can Google to find more. You can kind of adapt them to fit you the way you want. So any questions about transcripts? I have one more subject that we're going to cover that I really didn't let you know that we're going to cover, and that's extracurricular activities. But any questions on transcripts? Okay, you guys are really good. Or either I'm really bad and nothing makes any sense, but extracurricular activities, that's what they are. Activities outside your curricula, your core curriculum. They're non-credit. Last week we talked about keeping activities as activities and not counting them as credits. And it's good to not count everything as a credit. Like I said, it's a lot more work if you try to make everything a credit, because you're going to have to come up with a standard for grading and counting the hours and things like that. It's important. Extracurricular activities nowadays are important. I mean, there were before, but they're just as valuable now. They show another side of your teen. They show They reflect the interests your teen may have, his character. It's an opportunity for your teen to work in a team, to develop leadership skills, to demonstrate time management, and demonstrate service and community mindedness with volunteer work. So the things that you could include in extracurricular activities would be things like volunteer work or community service, ministry work, internships, any specialized training, any awards given, the real extracurricular activities like clubs, sports teams, choir, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, speech and debate clubs or speech and debate camps, drama or theater clubs or drama or theater camps. I mean, the list is pretty much endless. You can include part-time employment, competitive activities like sports or robotics, chess club, things like that, which might be, listed under something else. You might even want to include any areas of interest or hobbies that your teen might have. But when you actually list them, you want to be selective. You don't want to inflate, and in some sense, the depth of an extracurricular activity speaks more than spreading your student out so thinly and it just looks like he's just being busy. So it's not necessary to list everything. You could list them on a separate sheet and attach it to the transcript. You could list them, you could list them chronologically. So everything for grade 9, grade 10, grade 11, grade 12. You would include what the activity is, the date, a brief description of what was involved or the responsibilities. And if it was volunteer work, it would be like the number of hours. For internship, the number of hours. For sports, you wouldn't necessarily put the number of hours. You could include a section on any awards or honors received. And I would just suggest that, you keep a list of this and then you kind of play around with how you want to format it, because there's no set way to do this. But you want to make it readable, and so just experiment how best to make it look, because sometimes it might depend what your student is involved in that determines how you want to format your list of extracurricular activities. So, any questions over any of this material? You guys are really good. Oh, you can unmute. Or do you have to unmute? She's asking DMMD. You can unmute yourself, I think. Try. Anybody have something that has worked for them that they want to share? I know not all of you are beginning high school. Some of you are already have students in high school. So is there anything that you've done that you want to share, or something that you didn't do that you would encourage parents to do, or something that you did and you think, that wasn't a good thing? Let's any helps that you can give each other would be good. Rachel. Yes, Rachel or Chris. Do I look in chat?
Yeah.
Okay. My mic is not working, so I'll type my question. for piano lessons, would you consider that a course or extracurricular? You can do it both. If your child actually learns certain things for piano, or you could ask the teacher to write something up, you could do it for a course, because in learning piano, I hope that the instruction, including, how to read music, how to not only play, and you could extend that by having your son research a particular pianist, do a history of piano music, how the piano came to be. You could do things with it to make it a nice, full, robust course, and give him the credits according to the hours spent on that. And then anytime after that, it could be extracurricular. And so to extend that, does that answer your question, first of all? So you could actually do both. And I think it's a good idea to do both. And that's the same thing approach that you could take for a student in speech and debate, fine arts like art, whether it's painting or drawing. Same thing for drama, dance, or whatever. You can have them, there's an instructional time, right? And there's always going to be instructional time. In piano, they're going to keep on learning and advancing in their piano skills. But so if they take piano for, all through their high school, it's going to look like you could give them a credit every year, but that's really not accurate. But you could count that for extracurricular, that they took piano lessons. But you could take some time, and if you want to, you could stretch it out over 2 years, where they're learning something about art, about painting, about artists, about drama, so that they're and this is true for PE. PE doesn't just have to be participating in a sport. You could learn about the history of football and have them write a paper about that. For PE, they should be learning things about exercise and health and things like that. But you can make it your own course. So I would definitely look into putting together a course and then adding it for extracurricular activities. Good question. Anything else?
Who's the best?
So are you, sorry, I was just going to ask, are you saying that you can write the piano course both? You can basically double dip. You can put it underneath course credit, and you can also put it as an extracurricular. It can be in both categories.
Yes, however, but what I'm not saying is that those same hours would be applied to both. So 1 year,
Okay.
it's a course, and the hours are for that course. As the years go by, it's no longer for the course, it's for the extracurricular activity. So it's not quite double dipping.
Oh, okay. So you couldn't, okay, yeah. So you couldn't have the same year. So 9th grade, they both had extracurricular piano, plus they had a piano course. It's more 1 year you do it more as a, let's study the theory of music and let's study the pianist.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the following year, let's just focus on playing, and it can be extracurricular.
Yeah. Although,
okay, thank you.
I'm not trying to confuse the issue, Madeline, but let's say that I'm not good at math, so I can't calculate how many hours of piano would happen that it would easily round up to 150 hours. But let's say that in 1 year, it's more than 150 hours. So it could spill over into extracurricular in the first year if the hours were already met through the course. Does that make sense?
Point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very good. Thank you.
Okay.
Therese asks, who's the best person to consult with if many of my child's high school courses were taken during 6th through 9th grade?
Who's the best person to consult?
Yeah.
Teresa, were these high school courses?
Yes.
If there are high school courses, if I don't really want to give you legal advice because I'm not capable, but you could, if are you a member of Homeschool Legal Defense Association?
Yes, I am.
You can call one of their consultants and ask
Okay.
and talk to them about that. Sixth grade is kind of early. You must have a very bright student, but if there were high school courses, then they might be able to guide you on how to put that onto the transcript.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Okay. One more thing. I am in the evaluation I'm going to send to you. I'm going to ask the question if any of you would be interested in Zooming once a month. We can set up a time where we can just beforehand, we choose a topic, get some questions going, and just a sharing time. How are we doing? What questions do we have? I don't know if it needs to be, I don't know if once a month is often enough. I don't know if it's too soon. Maybe we need to do do something more like in September when school starts, and another one a few months later. But we want to be here. Cho wants to be here to support you. Some of you are from another island. Madeline said that there are a couple other Big Island moms, and maybe you guys can get together and share information about how you're doing things. I know a lot of people are in CC, so that's another resource to look to one another, to share, to do standards. Because I think the standards are, to me was the most challenging thing to write up, so that I knew how to assign grades. Now, if you have, sometimes if it's really challenging, if you are able, some of these more difficult ones, if you were to source out for somebody else to do, like last week we talked about online classes with HSLDA, not HSLDA, but Patrick Henry College, Potter School. There's many more where an outsider is teaching your child, and so they would be the one who would be grading your student, setting the course standards, giving you the course credits, things like that. So that's one way for some of these things to be achieved. And we did mention that it's nice to get, if you can, an outsider to instruct your child. So there's just somebody else who has a perspective on your child. It doesn't have to be a formal one where you're paying somebody to do something like that. It could just be in a co-op that you do, where maybe someone is teaching writing because that's what they're good at, and so they don't mind teaching your child writing skills, or and grading, and in exchange that maybe you watch their little one or something like that. I taught logic even after we graduated our kids, and I was more than willing to grade the students. I set up the standards, and my only requirement was that these students wanted to be there, because I didn't want to deal with any behavior issues. So I had really good students who did their work, and that was just wonderful for me. So there's different ways to do things. You don't have to be the only one to do it all. You can share information and services. So, okay. So let me know if there's other ways we can help you. I'm so blessed that you guys are here and that you are entering these challenging but fun years. I know that this was a lot of information, but I don't want to lose sight of that. You are raising another generation to the Lord, and God is with you, and He's always there for you, and He'll bless. I keep on saying one more thing. Another thing I wanted to add was today I listened to different parents at the Harvard conference, and not all of these parents were Christians. Some of them, a couple of them were. Some of them just kind of fell into homeschooling for different reasons. One was military, or two were military, and they homeschooled because of the moving around. Some of them had teaching backgrounds, most of them didn't. One mom in particular, the son did not like school, and he was entering middle school. She pulled him out. She followed the traditional school. In other words, she took public school and put it into the home, and it didn't work for her son. And so she did a lot of research and finally ended up doing what they call unschooling. So it was really just very non-traditional, but teaching the student truly on his interests. And today he's 24. He's starting a car mechanics business. He's well-liked, well-adjusted, and doing very well. And very different from what these other families on the parents on the panel, how they homeschool their kids. And it was just really nice because all these parents said, they don't think increased regulation is the way to go for homeschooling. So that was really exciting to hear. And that a lot of the policymakers have it all wrong. So they need to hear that parents really like the freedom to teach their children at home according to what they feel is best for their child. So seek the Lord and he'll bless. And thank you for joining us, and have a good evening.